Welcome to the newest episode of the Process of Fat Loss, where our goal is to help you understand the best way to lose fat and live a healthier life. Join us as we discuss some of the toughest and most valuable topics in health and fitness. Today, we're going to be talking about the difference between an abstainer and a moderator. And you've probably heard people saying all in moderation. I've heard that saying 1,000 times, and it sounds like a good concept. You can have anything you want as long as you don't have too much of it, right? But is it really as simple as consuming food in moderation? So Trevor, what do you have to say about moderation to start us off today?
Yeah, it's something we hear all the time. So the idea is, have you heard that in nutrition, moderation? For sure. So you try to have some ice cream, just a small bowl. Then you go back for more. Then then you go back for more and more until the pint is gone, right? Or a lot of people just, they literally just have the pint. Is there something wrong with you because you do this? That everybody else can eat in moderation, but you can't? What if I told you that most people can't moderate and very few people can moderate everything, That's why we're going to talk about abstaining from the certain things and moderating from other things. So you do have to be able to abstain from a few things and moderate. And we'll explain what those mean and how we do those.
So on one side, we have an abstainer. What is an abstainer?
An abstainer is someone who completely eliminates certain foods from their diet because even a little bit of it throws them off. This can be for any number of reasons. It can be they never eat gluten because they have intolerance, so they abstain from all those foods that they have it. So it can be an allergy-based thing. They never have peanut butter because every time they do, they end up digging through the container until it's completely gone. So over the food is so hyper palatable, they can't sustain themselves. Like they have to keep eating more. They don't eat in legumes because they become extremely gassy, and the only way to go away from it is not to touch beans, right? So that's slightly an allergy. It's different things of that nature. The body doesn't digest it very well. So they're abstaining from that. These people usually have so an abstainer usually has a full category of foods that they need to abstain from, such as sweets, carbs, or salty foods. They have found that these specific foods need to be abstained from in their daily life because their bodies and or willpower can't handle these foods.
Okay, then we have on the other side of the comparison, what is a moderator?
A moderator is someone that can handle a certain amount of food and doesn't have to use willpower to fight against eating more of it. This is a person who eats one scoop of ice cream from the freezer and doesn't touch the box again for another week and rarely thinks about having it in between that point. So they're not using willpower to I'm not going to have it tonight. I'm not going to have it tonight. I'm not going to have it tonight. This person just doesn't think about it until the next time, oh, maybe I could have some ice cream like a week later. They open up the fridge and see it, or freezer and see it there. This person can have 5 Pringles and put the top back on it. These people usually don't struggle with certain food addictions either. So people that struggle with any food addiction is usually going to be in the abstainer category. A person in moderator really doesn't have any food addictions in any category. You can actually be a combo of both of these type of people.
So now that we kind of have the difference locked down and the kind of two comparisons between two things, let's look at some examples of how both can appear in someone's diet.
Yes, I'm going to use some examples from our life. So me, Nathan, and Erica's life. I am an abstainer by nature, right? So I have to abstain. I struggle with all carbs in general. For most of my life, I thought I needed to eat these in moderation before I learned it was okay to completely abstain from them. So for me, it was like every single carb that I would have, I would be like, so an example would be like a bread from Texas Roadhouse, right? You have the buns. If I had one bun at Texas Roadhouse, I would literally have all 4 of the buns in the basket and ask for more. I just couldn't stop once I had that one bun. If I never touched that bun, I was totally fine. I would eat a meal, would have no issues, but I would be head first in under carbs. Same thing with any sweet. I couldn't just get a little bag of M&Ms. I wanted a giant bag of M&Ms. I had to have the whole family pack because it was like once it hit the mouth, right? It was just keep going, keep going. I could not, or cannot handle those kind of foods, right? So I have to completely abstain from sweets. And for me, it really comes down to all carbohydrates. I found there's maybe some fruits I can get away with that I don't do that. I don't just keep downing bananas. That's not something I really struggle with. But outside of that, most when it comes to carbohydrates for me, that's why I've gone to a 0-carb diet. I've gone to a carnivore-based diet because I realize for my type, the type of person I am, personality-wise, I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of person. So abstaining from carbs in general was the best way for me to be able to move in the right direction in my diet. No matter, because I always overeat them. So this leads to overeating addictions and throws me off my plan. So I just abstain at all times. Even now, I've been on carnivore for, this is July, so 7 months. So carnivore 7 months, and I have moments inside of there where I have a carb, and it throws me off, not just like for one meal, it throws me off for 3 or 4 days. It's how long it takes me to get back at it. So I really have to abstain, and the better I do, the longer I go from abstaining, the better I feel. So that's my abstaining personality. Now my moderators, things I can moderate. So when it comes to dairy, I can moderate it easily. Some people struggle with, they want to eat tons of dairy. I don't really need to. Like I can have a little bit of cheese and I'm totally fine. So dairy is something I can easily moderate, whereas some other people can't. When it comes to alcohol, I can moderate alcohol completely. Like now I don't drink it because I do have a food allergy to it, so I just completely keep it out of my diet. But back in the day when I did drink it, I could moderate it easily. I could have one beer and that's all I needed. I didn't have the taste for it. I had no desire to drink more, so it wasn't one of those issues. But I know other people, as soon as they have a beer or some alcohol, it's like 3, 4 glasses later, right? Or 4 beers later, you know? So like that's not something I struggle with. Let's go through Nathan a little bit. So Nathan is a moderator by nature. So I'm an abstainer by nature. I have to abstain more often than not. Nathan's the opposite. He's a moderator by nature. He can moderate foods more often than not. So when it comes to most foods, Nathan can naturally have them in moderation. He didn't grow up eating a lot of sweets, which helps out a lot. So he didn't have that initially when you're younger. The age of 6 to 11 is when most of our taste buds are built, or really like formed, you know? And so that's the best time to make sure your kids are eating a very, very clean diet, is the 6 to 11 age group. So he luckily didn't have a lot of that in his diet at that time. So besides, he didn't have a lot of them in diet, sweets just have a tendency to make him a little bit more sick. So he's been able to easily moderate him in his life because it's not worth the pain of getting sick from him. Also things like caffeine, soda, and a lot of those other addictions that people have. He just never really had addiction to those. If he has a little bit of caffeine, he's okay, but he can't have too much caffeine. He's never been a person that drinks a ton of soda. So he's been kind of lucky, lucky in the sense that he's been developed that way. He can moderate a lot more food categories of things. But he does have some things he has to abstain from. So abstaining for him, when it comes to M&Ms, Nathan goes crazy for peanut M&Ms. Like if they're in the house, he pretty much just has to keep eating them. I know Dina has to like hide them from him, or they just don't put them in the house. So peanut M&Ms are the thing, because he'll just keep eating until he goes and gets sick. Even though he's a moderator, he's so good at moderating things. That's like that one thing that he struggles with. So for him, he needs to cut that out. I don't have it down, but I actually have Carl, one of our coaches, Carl. I know one thing he really struggles with as a thing is peanut butter, because he does really good at a lot of different foods, but peanut butter is one of those things that he struggles with a lot. And so he has to either abstain from it. If he doesn't abstain from peanut butter, he just really struggles with it. He can't do those in moderation. Erica is a moderator by nature as well. So even though she does like sweets, Erica is the type of person that can have one bite of something and be done, but her moderation, instead of having one bite, so instead of it just having it like a one bite of ice cream and put it back in the freezer, which is something Dina can do. Dina can literally take a bite of ice cream and put it away for 2 weeks and never think about it again, right? Whereas for Erica, her moderation is like she might have a small little bowl every night, but she does it every single night. So that's how she kind of moderates it. It's from a night to night basis. But she does have some things she has to abstain from as well. So she has to abstain from not foods because of addiction purposes. So she doesn't really have addictions to any types of foods. She has to stay away from them because of how foods affect her, right? So she gets bad acne when she eats things like certain types of vegetables. They really help her. They really make her break out, or fried foods do the same thing. When she has a consistent amount of vegetables as well as seeds in her diet, her acne will flare up. She'll have more mental health issues, so she struggles a lot with like depressions and anxieties. And the more we've reduced vegetables in her diet, and she eats no vegetables anymore, once we reduced all those, almost all those feelings completely disappeared. So she has to abstain from them because it affects her differently than the food addiction side of it. So abstaining might not just be because you're abstaining because you can't eat that food because it's addicting. It's abstaining from it because that food does not sit with your body the way it should.
So here's the big question of the day. Which one is better, and which one should we try to be, an abstainer or a moderator?
Neither one is right or wrong. You just have to best understand the things that affect you. So if you're a person that destroys a pint of Ben & Jerry's, then realistically that food should no longer be part of your diet. It shouldn't even be something that like, well, I just get small amounts of it. It should just be something that's completely out of your diet, because it could throw you off for days. Like if you have one pint of Ben & Jerry's on Saturday, it might affect you for 3 or 4 days because you're eating other crap that you're not supposed to eat, right? So a person like that if they really just go head first into something, they just need to completely abstain from that in their life, right? Just get rid of them. Some people will naturally be more abstainers from more things than others. So I think in our today's society, because food's so palatable, I think you're going to be more of an abstainer than a moderator, unless you grew up with a healthy lifestyle where your parents didn't give you a lot of sweets and candies and things like that growing up. You're probably going to be, if you didn't have that stuff growing up, you might be more of a moderator. But today's society, most people grew up with a lot of the hyper palatable foods. And because we had hyper palatable foods, we're going to be naturally need to be more abstaining as we age because we just have struggled with those over our life. So I abstain from many things because it helps me find control over my cravings and the lifestyle that I want to live, right? So I abstain purposely, even though I don't maybe need to abstain from everything, I abstain purposely from carbs because it helps me keep my control of my cravings for a longer period of time. So I don't go down the binge eating side because I've had struggle with binge eating my whole life. Until I went to carnivore, did I finally get past my binge eating issues. Not that I recommend everybody go to carnivore, but for me, that was that solution because carbs were limited from my diet. Whereas Erica, she does a keto-based diet because what she does is fruit does not factor at all in terms of like craving based. So for her, she has the fruit to give her some of those positive carbs, but she doesn't have to go over her carb limit, which then can affect her negatively. So if you're someone that has certain eating habits and issues with controlling the volume of food you eat, then you might want to be more of an abstainer. And again, I think that is still a bigger portion of society needs to be an abstainer, especially a bigger portion of people that listen to our podcast. So just be honest with yourself about what you desire to eat compared to oh, sorry, I misspoke there. So just be honest with yourself because of what you have desire to eat and what we are having, what you actually should have are two different things, right? So you might have a desire to eat that food, but should you really be eating that food and can you really control that food? If it's in the house and it's not supposed to be in the house and you have a tendency to eat, always keep going back to it. Like peanut butter is a great example for like Carl. Peanut butter is a great example. It should just be out of the house because you can't stop yourself from going back from it.
What are some actionable things that our listeners can take away from our discussion to help improve their eating habits?
Figure out where it fits in your long terms of being abstainer and moderator of certain foods. So find the ones that you need to abstain from and get them out of the house and just completely out of your life. If there's certain things you know you can moderate, cool, keep them in the house, but let's just be very smart if you've moved from that moderator category over to the eating too much of it and you need to abstain from it. So for me, one of those situations was Yasso bars. As we were just eating one Yasso bar a night, no big deal. And then eventually I found myself eating two and then getting the chocolate covered ones. So I found that it was no longer a moderation thing. It became an abstainer thing I needed to have. If you are someone that really struggles with carbs and you can't stop yourself from eating them, then it might be worth doing a carnivore diet for maybe 3 to 6 months to see if you can get back in control of your eating of other foods. And I know carnivore is like really like a touchy subject for a lot of people because I don't want to just eat meat. But the idea is like if you need to get control over eating, it's for me one of the best things I've ever gone through to making sure I can get control of that eating. And now I'm able to be able to sustain a little bit better down the road. So it's worth trying.
I hope you guys enjoyed listening to our discussion today about our topic. Hopefully you kind of understand a little bit the difference between abstainer and moderator and kind of how you can use those to build healthier eating habits. Remember, the best time to start living healthier is today, so make sure to take action and start living a healthier life right now. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a review. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and follow us on social media to stay up to date on future podcasts, different topics that we're talking about on there. If you have any ideas for anything you think you might want us to talk about or any questions that you may have, just send us an email or message us on social media and we'll try to talk about some of the questions or topics that you guys may have on the podcast. Thank you again for listening, and I hope you will join us for the next episode of The Process of Fat Loss.
Have a great day, guys.